We will now talk about what to do if we experience a material jam. We will break this out into two sections. First, we will talk about a plastic jam, then we will talk about a fiber jam. When troubleshooting a material jam, we will need a 2mm hex key, tweezers, a 7mm and 10mm torque wrench, replacement PTFE tubes, and a tube of anti-seize lubricant. Let's start with a plastic jam. When troubleshooting a plastic material jam, the first step is to determine whether the failure is in the plastic extruder or the nozzle. To help determine the source, we will heat the nozzles through the temperature control utility. To get there, we will navigate to Utilities, Manual Control, Temperature Control. Once the nozzles have reached temp, we will unscrew the thumb screw that secures the plastic bowden tube to the printhead. We will then carefully remove the tube from the printhead. The tip of the plastic tube will be hot, so be sure not to let it contact your skin. If the plastic is able to be freely extruded from the end of the plastic bowden tube that was removed from the printhead, the jam is likely in the nozzle. If the extruder motor skips and does not push any plastic freely, the jam is likely in your extruder. If the jam is in the nozzle, we will simply just replace the nozzle and reload material. If the jam is in the extruder, we want to remove the inlet bowden tube and then remove the plastic out of the extruder. When we are ready to print again, we will reassemble all components and reload print material. Note, be sure to cut the end of the plastic filament at a 45-degree angle before inserting it into the extruder. Now, let's talk about fiber jams. The most common causes of fiber jams are as follows: an extruder jam, or a nozzle jam as a result of an incorrect fiber nozzle height. Extruder jam. This failure is most common when printing with Kevlar. If the part has a high volume of Kevlar, the repeated use of the fiber cutter, many times per part's layer, increases the likelihood of an extruder jam. Due to its flexibility, Kevlar tends to bend or break more frequently than the other fiber materials and can become caught in the extruder. A fiber nozzle set to the incorrect height can also cause a nozzle jam, along with other print issues, of course. Fiber jams due to poor leveling are the most common when printing with carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is thicker than the other fiber materials and requires extra care when leveling the fiber nozzle. We can enable or disable fiber jam detection by navigating to the menu, Settings, System Info, and then the gears icon. In the event of a suspected fiber jam, your printer will pause the print and a prompt will appear on its touchscreen. We will follow the on-screen steps to diagnose and attempt to resolve the jam. Once the jam is resolved, we can resume the print from where it was paused. We will start by pressing Troubleshoot. Follow the on-screen prompts until you reach the screen below. Ensure that the area below your print bed is clear and then press Next. We will want to wait for the nozzles to cool completely. It is recommended that you unload the fiber from your printhead at this time. Once all fiber is unloaded, detach the fiber bowden tube from the printhead and check for the obstructions in the bowden tube. If there are any obstructions, press Yes and continue to the next step. If not, you can press No and skip ahead. If any obstructions are present in the fiber bowden tube or feed tubes, remove the remaining filament from inside the obstructed tube. Using a spare piece of fiber is often the best tool when removing any filament from the bowden tubes. Once we have cleared the bowden tubes of any obstructions, we will use the nozzle wrench to unscrew and remove the fiber nozzle. We will then hold it up to a source of light to check for obstructions. If you see any obstructions in the fiber nozzle, press Yes to continue to the next step. If not, you can press No and skip ahead. Next, we will remove the PTFE tube from the fiber nozzle. Then, check again for obstructions inside the nozzle itself by holding it up to a source of light. If no obstructions are present, press No and continue. If an obstruction is present, your nozzle is unfortunately no longer usable. While you may resume your print, it is recommended that you cancel your print at this time and install a new fiber nozzle. If there are no obstructions present, we will then check the PTFE tube we removed from the nozzle for obstructions. If obstructions are present, press yes to continue and replace the PTFE tube as shown. Otherwise, press no. Note, it is recommended that you always install an unused PTFE tube into the fiber nozzle, as removal of the PTFE tube may cause crimps or dents that can cause to future fiber jams. We will now examine our nozzle. Looking at the face of our fiber nozzle, examine the wear indicator notches on the side of the nozzle. If the nozzle resembles the nozzle to the right of the X, it is worn through and unfortunately no longer usable. While you may resume your print, again, it is recommended that you cancel the print and install a new fiber nozzle. If our nozzle resembles the diagram to the right of the green check mark, it is not worn through and can be reinstalled. We will then press no to continue. Once we have either installed a new nozzle or reinstalled our current nozzle, we will then reinstall the fiber bowden tube into the print head. At this point, we will load fiber before resuming our print. After reloading fiber, you will be asked if the fiber successfully extruded from the print head. If it did not, please contact support. To help with diagnosis, please provide any photos of the obstructions you may have found and the logs from your printer. If fiber did successfully extrude, then you have cleared the fiber jam. We will then follow the on-screen prompts where we will have the option to resume our print. Keep in mind, if you've installed a brand new nozzle, it is recommended to cancel the current print and recalibrate the fiber nozzle height before starting over. You will also want to ensure that you reinstall any components that were removed during this procedure.